any reason for us to gather as a community to love on each other, to be fed. Thank you to Faith and to Nicole and to Lisa for feeding us so well. And to be fed by our new friend. Thank you, Nicole, for introducing Rick to me. That one time I met with him was transformatively lovely. So would you mind introducing him?
Not at all.
Hi. I first met Rick through Facebook, actually. I put a Skin to Soul ad out, and he responded. And I was drawn to Rick because he does healing work. And he's also a Vietnam vet. And my dad was a Vietnam vet. So it was really interesting to me. And so I worked with him. And right before we shut down the pandemic, I participated in a pipe ceremony with him. And that was very important to me as a person who owned a business that had to shut down during that time. So Ricky is from the Pennacook band, Pocasset Wampanoag, and he's going to talk to us about his tradition.
Thank you, Rick. Hello.
Welcome. In my limited time-wise.
Till 7:30, so you've got, what is that?
40
minutes.
40 minutes. Closer is better. My name is Ricky Simaratana. I'm an indigenous member of the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe in Fall River, Massachusetts. My tribe's reservation is on Indian Town Road in Fall River. My father was born on a reservation in 1919 and at one time lived in Windsor, Ontario. My mother was a city Indian born in Brockton. I was told the way my father got off the reservation is he stole one of his father's cows to cross over into Detroit. They sent the older brother after him. When he got to Detroit and saw the bright lights, neither one of them went back. So he put my father through music school. My father was an A musician, played with people like Count Basie and Duke Ellington. Musicians would say, why go home? You can hang with us and drink. That's what he did. Drank. We never understood why he wasn't working when we got older. But when my mother passed away in 1992, one of the former music directors, his name is Chip Harris, he introduced himself to us. My sister said, what happened to our father? He said, you don't know? I said, no. He stole the union dues to drink because it wasn't working. So he was kicked out of the union. Well, that's what happened with my father when we got older. We saw he was at home and couldn't work. It's a little disappointing as a young fellow. As I got older, I realized the talent that my father had. Now, I come from a group of Native American women who were gifted with foresight. It's something that I inherited, but no one told us about our family when we were young. As a young boy coming back from school, I was with my friend. There was a place that we used to drink water coming from the rocks. There was a bigger kid there. He had a dog and he had a stick. He said, go ahead and get your water. I got that tingly feeling in the back of my head he was going to hit me. When I went to drink the water, he clobbered me with the stick. I was trying to fight him, but my friend was holding me back. Another time at home, there was a knock on the door. I told my favorite sister, that's Bob. When she opened the door and saw Bob, oh, you told Bob to come over. And it was interesting to me because still no one has explained to us our family gifts. I got drafted in 1966. And women in my family sat down with me and said, Ricky, we're not happy with you going to the service because of the treatment of Native Americans. But the men said, we go. So all the guys from school, all at the same train station. And one of the fellows was drunk. Everybody was trying to get away from me. I got stuck with missed the train. That means we're going to be late to go to the Boston Army base. So this fellow said he had money for a cab. So I got him into the cab. It was tough because it was that much messed up. I got him into the cab, got to the Boston Army base. But years later, when I was in Vietnam, the same way I watched out for this drunk was the same way the Asian soldiers that I got to work with watched out for me. They schooled me on different things. These fellows were in criminal intelligence. I wound up being cross-trained and wound up working with these guys. I had basic training in Texas. I was at 3 different bases. I didn't like Texas. I didn't like it because I could not go into a restaurant and be served. And I often said, those mothers and fathers who denied us access to the restaurant would be happy for me to take a bullet for their sons and daughters, but I wasn't good enough to do the restaurant. We left. So I was at 2 other bases for weapons training. I was being cross-trained at the time. And then I was sent to Northern California. I loved California as a young guy. And I was there 14 months. After the 14 months, I got an assignment to go to Saigon. I told the sergeant, I don't want to go. He was laughing at me. I had no choice. Then after notice of that assignment, there was another assignment that came down for me to go to Da Nang in Vietnam. But they were trying to find able bodies. They were trying to come up with people who were getting ready to get shipped out. And they said, Ricky, you're going to go to the 388 Combat Support Group, Karat, Thailand. One of my friends who was there said, man, Rick, those guys didn't play. So I went there, and I think I have a picture on the table of the 2 Asian fellows at school. They were in criminal intelligence, and they watched out for me. That right there. That's it. These were the fellows that schooled me. They were in criminal intelligence. Their brother was known as the Big Chief, and I wound up being schooled and taught by his fellows. So I got to Karat, Thailand, but instead of them putting me in the military police section, they transferred me to the base fuel section, which I didn't want to be in. But that's what happened. So every time the opportunity presented itself, I was with the guys in criminal intelligence. It was a real tough job. Every kind of plane that you can imagine coming because it was wartime. The CIA would be in and their little clandestine stuff. And, the pilots liked me because of some of the things I did to assist them. And I was there a year through some really rough times. After my year, I was sent to Southern California. That was my next duty station. And after being there 10 days, the captain approaches me. And he said, Sergeant, but I wasn't a sergeant. I thought he made a mistake. He said, I noticed that your uniform has been lacking lately. And he handed me sergeant's stripes and said, take care of it. I got promoted to sergeant. That's because of some of the things that happened. I was always on point. And I was happy as a Dickens. So I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, all the guys got together on a weekend and said, Rick, we're going to go to Tijuana. Come on with us. Come on, dude. Oh, nothing ever happens on the weekend. Come on, you can lock up. Here I am getting ready to lock up. Look down the street, here comes the captain. Must be nuts. Jump back inside the building and was ready to work. After that situation there, as part of President Nixon's cutback, the base was being closed. And I was getting sent to Duluth, Minnesota. Now here it's summertime in California. It was freezing cold in Minnesota. I couldn't keep warm. I was there 5 months, and then I got another assignment to go back overseas. But I had to extend 6 months to make a year's duty. So I did that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The folks on the far end are having a harder time hearing you. Can you hold the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth?
Sure. So I had to extend my tour for 6 months to make a year tour. And I did that. My mother was not happy with me, but I did that. It was just something I wanted to do. So I was sent again to more advanced weapons training because I wanted to be on the perimeter with the police. But once again, they put me with the fuel section because I was getting awards from some of the things that I was doing with the pilots coming in from the CIA and different places who would always say, we like this guy to take care of us. So I got sent back overseas. I was at a place on the Cambodian border. As part of President Nixon's cutback, the base was going to close. I was sent back to the previous base I was at the first year. Now, I was happy because everybody in town knew me. Two other officers, September the 30th, 1970, we got back to that particular base in Thailand. And these fellows said, Rick, would you take us in town? We're not going to cause any trouble. And I got that warning signal, beep, beep, beep. We're not going to cause any trouble. I got that warning signal, beep, 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 beep. I took them in town. They got into knife fights with me caught in the middle. I got us out of that. And I promised I will never go downtown with any other GIs. A couple of days later, these guys went in town and were beaten severely. And that just gives you an idea about the fact that they were marked after that. So I kept working and traveling with criminal intelligence whenever I could. We were in Cambodia when 6 of the guys got killed. I got caught in fast water and was getting driven downstream by the current. Overhead, you can hear the F-4 Phantoms dropping bombs, and I'm swearing to myself because I'm in trouble. And I got to the shore and started walking, and my feet were burning. I had sliced my feet open. I got back under the base, and the next day, the Thai lieutenant whose men had gotten killed, he was grief-stricken. He came onto the base to get fuel to cremate the bodies, but he had taken his insignia of rank off his shoulders. His own officer held him at gunpoint. And the American forces came down because they didn't know who he was. And they were bad-mouthing him. So they asked me, do you know Lieutenant Primazak? I said, sure, I've known him for years. Can you identify him? I said, yes. So I drove to the fuel storage area. And Lieutenant, when he saw me, he grabbed me by the throat. I said, this is Lieutenant Primazak. And his officer, who held him at gunpoint, he walked over to him and he gave him a beating in front of everybody. And then he told the American soldiers who were there, I lived in your country a long time. I speak your language well. And his jaws dropped. He said, you think you're smart? I will shut off fuel to the base. So that morning, the big bombing mission that was supposed to take place was canceled. I left base and went in town, got a hotel room to go to sleep. Something woke me up. And I got up and walked to the front door and looked around. There was nobody there. I came back and laid on the bed on my stomach. Then I got the strangest feeling that someone was in my room, and I spun off the bed to catch this guy going through my clothes. So I've had things like that happen to me over and over again And this is before my family explained to me about our intuitive gifts. I continued to work with the fellows in criminal intelligence, but I was assigned to fuels, which I really, I didn't like. I wanted to be a police officer. After my tour was up, I was asked, you know, if you re-enlist, we'll get that fourth stripe for you. But I had passed the test earlier, and I didn't get the stripe, so I told them no. Then they got nasty with me and told me I got 8 days to pack and get out. And I returned to San Francisco with the military and was discharged there. Came back to Massachusetts. Wintertime again. A couple of days later, I went to the fights. And there's a man whose son, at 9 years old, I took to the baseball game and to the circus. He was so happy to see me. He paraded me around the Boston arena. And he said, "Look, you made it back." So he said, "Ricky, would you come over for supper tomorrow?" And I did. I went over for supper, East Boston. He said, "You know, you always watched off my son when he was young. Now he's fighting for Angelo Dundee." Those who don't know, Angelo Dundee was the manager of Muhammad Ali. So he said, now he's fighting for Angelo Dundee. You were good before. Why don't you go to Florida? You'll be able to fight again and you can watch off my son. He'll be a champion if you watch off for him. So he called Angelo up and said, "Angelo, Ricky's back." Angelo said, "Ricky's back. Send him to Florida." Angelo had so many world champions because he scouted the fighters, the talent. So I started to train. And it took all my strength to train and try and get back in shape from 5 years of inactivity. And my friend, the father of the young kid, his father gave me an envelope with a check inside to give to Angelo. But he said, "Don't let my son know there's any money, because if he knows there's money, he'll slack up." So I arrived in Florida March the 8th, 1972. It was Muhammad Ali's first day back in the gym after losing to Joe Frazier. I called Angelo Mr. Dundee and gave him the envelope. He looked at me. "Ricky, what are your intentions?" I said, "I'd like to try and get back in shape and fight again." He said, "All right. You have the use of the gym. When you're ready, let me know." If you're not familiar with the fight game, you may have heard, of course, of Muhammad, but he had what we call his guru, who was Bundini Brown. He was always in Muhammad's corner yelling, "Champ, you're the greatest, you're the best." So my friend's saying, "Ricky, they're watching you, they're watching." I said, Will you leave me alone?" He's breaking my concentration. Bundini came over and said, "Me and the champ are admiring your moves." And then the boxing historian, Hank Kaplan, came over, introduced himself, and told me who he was. And I gave him some information, and 6 weeks later, there was an article in the boxing magazine, the Ring magazine, about me. A former Vietnam veteran, former three-time New England champion, known as the Boston Flash. That's what the news media nicknamed me. And it was really nice to read that, and all the other guys were saying, "Hey, Ricky, is this you?" I said, "Yes." So I started training. And Angelo said, "Ricky, would you spar with Louis Rodriguez?" Louis Rodriguez was the former welterweight, middleweight champion. He was from Cuba. Everybody liked Louis. But he knew that if I sparred with Louis, it wouldn't be a sparring session where you go and try and kill each other in the gym. So I sparred 2 rounds with Louis. I was exhausted, but the crowd stood up and gave a round of applause for a good sparring session. I kept training and training and training. It took all my strength to try and get myself back in shape from 5 years of inactivity. And the guys kept seeing me coughing, and they kept saying, "Ricky, do you smoke cigarettes?" I said, "No, but it's all that stuff from the Vietnam War that's coming out of me." I just kept training and training, and it took all my strength on a daily basis. I train, I go home, I fall asleep. But I stuck with it. I stuck with it. And my friend Vinny was fighting main events. He's 16 years old. He's fighting main events. And as I started getting back in shape, we were both on the same card because Angelo knew that it would be a good show. The promoter was his brother, and all he cared about was a big payday with so I trained and trained and trained. Got myself back in shape. They sent me to the Bahamas to fight a main event there. And the promoter said, geez, the gate is less than we had expected. We're going to cancel the fight. So the manager of the boxing group that I was fighting for said, well, make it a 6-rounder for the same money. So they agreed. The first round was 5 minutes long. In boxing, it's 3-minute rounds. The first round was 5 minutes long. They figured the guy was so strong he could knock me out. The second round was 4 minutes long. In the third round, he hit me in the back of the head, knocking me down. I told the referee, he's hit me in the back of the head. The referee's shrugging his shoulders like that at the time. So I got up. The guy did the same thing, hitting me in the back of the head, knocking me down. I got up. I was out on my feet. The referee is wiping his feet like when the bull's going to charge. That tips off the other guy. And the bell rings. I go back to the corner and was met with a smack in the face and cold water. And they yelled at me, we advertised that you were the best. Now get out there and fight him. So I beat the fellow a decision. The champion of the Bahamas called me every vulgar name in the book, said, I'll fight you. And 4 months later on Miami Beach, I fought a cold feature main event and beat that fighter that mouthed off at me. For those who don't know, boxing is a brutal business. Most of the fellows wouldn't be as articulate that I am now, but the chiropractor saved me. When I was having difficulty, the chiropractor told me that the vertebrae in my neck were knocked out of line from boxing. And when he made adjustments, I got a rush of blood to my waist all the way through my head. I was reaching out to grab something. But he said, no, the blood's flowing now. So I noticed my speech was clearing up again because I was starting to mumble a little bit. So that's why, for me, the chiropractor has been a best friend because of the trauma that most boxers receive. And there's the young kid that I was just talking to you about, whose picture's up here, whose father I was friends with. He was managing fighters in California. And I'll go back. His last professional fight, he won a world championship. 40 years old. So now he's training fighters. He's been a movie star. He played in Miami Vice. He played in several movies because he looks like a villain now. So he's always in those type of movies. He always plays a villain. And he was training fighters in California, and one of the fighters didn't like him and stabbed him in the heart. So he survived that. He survived a car accident where he had a broken neck. 2 years ago, I got a call from an attorney. He said, Ricky, we found your number, and he said he wanted to see Rick. So they had him hidden out because of his family. The family was looking for money, and there was a movie that was coming out. So they had him hidden out, and I was told not to tell anybody where we're going, whatever. So I went to a place in Danvers, and I walked in, and he saw me, and he just burst out crying. because he'd been asking for Rick. So I went to see him at one time. We stayed a couple of hours, and I told the attorney he was really happy to see me. I think 2 or 3 weeks later, his son found out where he was at and took him out of the place and brought him back to the house in East Boston. I told the attorney, I never told anybody, and so I don't know how he found out. And after that, my friend was bad-mouthing the attorney. That means his son probably told him, listen, if you don't do what I tell you, you don't get this, this, or this. Because I know his son. His son, unfortunately, is a 2-time ex-con. So he took his father back to his family house in East Boston. We knew he wouldn't be there for any length of time. Then he was picked up again by the police and sent to another rehab place, and that's somewhere where he's at right now, and I don't know, unfortunately. So my boxing career ended in 1981. I got the number 12 in the United States rating. I may have done better if it had not been for the Vietnam War, but at least I can talk to you with a clear head where a lot of the fighters can't. So when I came back to Massachusetts with this young fighter, I needed work. My aunt told me about a VP that she was friends with at the Boston Federal Reserve. I had met him in 1970. I went to see him. He filled out a resume for me on the spot, and I went to the Federal Reserve building to apply for employment. The fellow who was in charge of the employment department was a retired Lynn police officer. He had one poor fight. When he heard it was me, he interviewed me. And he said to me, now, Ricky, most of the fighters can't pass a strict background check. Can you pass a very stringent FBI background check? I told him yes. He talked to me a few more minutes and said, okay, Ricky, I'm going to ask you again. Can you pass a strict FBI background check? And I said, yes, I had no problem. And we talked and talked a little bit more. Then he asked me a third time. And I don't think he wanted to submit the papers. So he submitted the paperwork. It came back clear. He said, you passed. I said, I told you I was going to pass. You know, so I was offered a job to work the overnight shift. I loved the day shift. So working overtime, you get the compensation and stuff hour-wise. So all the police officers said, hey, don't let that rookie come in here and get all this bread, this gravy. Let's bump him until someone else decides. So they said, Ricky, someone else took the overnight shift. You'll be working the day shift. I said, this is perfect. Now I worked 24 years day shift. I did work overtime for different sergeants that wanted a day off, but I love day shift because I can show my skills. So I was hired. It was an old department, old management. It was in terrible shape. The man that was in charge of personnel now left personnel because the chief of our department had been terminated. The captain had been terminated. He took over. And he said to the guys, we're going to make this a top law enforcement department. A lot more training, uniforms, new weapons. They changed everything. Then he molded us. Now, slowly as he molded things, people were getting terminated because of their coming to work drunk, drinking in the job, sleeping in the job. If you're not familiar with the Boston Federal Reserve, that's where the money is stored for the 6 New England states. So it's a high-profile building. And Sometimes even the armored car gentlemen have been grabbed for stealing from their own department. But we kept up with the new training, new uniforms, and then after 4 years, I got promoted to sergeant. I had requested a specific sergeant to train me. And the boss said, why? I said, because with him, I'm going to get this, 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 and this. There was a lot of unfairness that went over within the department. If I had anybody else train me, they'd say, okay, see, you see, he can't do the job. And I knew that. So I had Sergeant Nichols, who was a 20-year Army vet, train me. And I became good at what I was doing. But now I got a chance to showcase my intuitiveness. So every time something was happening, I'd tell my boss what was up. And after he got there, he would look at me kind of puzzled. One of the things that really amazed him was I called the control center and you said, see the guy in the corner? He says, yeah. What about him? I said, he's armed. He's going to come in here. They said, did you see the gun? I said, no. Well, how do you know? I said, call 50. That was my boss's call sign. My boss came to the lobby. I said, Brian, did the control center tell you why I called you? He said, no. I said, Brian, the guy in the corner is armed. He's going to come in here. My boss is looking at me. I said, Brian, you know who I am. So we just stood there and we talked. And then the guy proceeded to walk towards the door. And I opened the door and said, hi, can I help you? Yeah, I want to go upstairs. Upstairs was the banking room where they did treasury bills and bonds. I want to go upstairs. Excuse me, sir, are you armed? Yes. So my boss that year wrote in my evaluation, this sergeant has an uncanny ability to detect problems before they happen. But I told him, but Brian, I have to keep myself clean. I said, not soap and water clean, spiritually clean. So I worked there 25 years and I abruptly retired. I retired because one of the captains opened my mail. We had people that used to do a lot of dishonest things and they would get caught. I was in charge of several different things that was ordering certain things as well. So the boss opened my mail when he realized it was from the Garrett metal detector company for parts for the metal detectors. Now he's in trouble. So he left it in his office under his desk for a month. And I went in to see him. He said it was under the desk, but I forgot I left it there. The package was open and I complained. I decided that was my last day. I gave notice. I resigned a month later. Now, I had been doing intuitive work for a number of years. I went to a place that my sister recommended in Amesbury, Mass, called The Way to Balance. Husband and wife team. The wife was a medical intuitive. She could see inside a person's body in an x-ray, see what the problem is, and come up with a solution. The husband was the master healer, master inventor. She was the one that told me I was suffering from Agent Orange. And she said, Ricky, we have to get this out of your body. And she put me on an herbal detox. And I broke out the sores from head to body. The color of the stick. And after 1 month, I knew she was going to tell me I needed another month, and I was dreading it. And went back on another month. But in the course of her doing things with me, she started to bring out the family's intuitive gift. Things were opening for me that I would never have understood until I started to experience her healing stuff. So 14 months it took me to clear my body. I started reading more on healing with herbs and going to various places for herbs. And then I broke out again, even worse than the first time. But I stuck with the healing process. And then I noticed every time I would move my hand like this, my body would tingle and I would jump. And I would do it again and I would jump. I started to she's had to bring out the gift of me being able to use my hands to direct energy. I started going to classes at the Weight of Balance in Amesbury, Mass. They have a tool that's rings. It's called the Rings of Odin. There's 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. I have a book that's 6 inches thick that covers all the major organs of the body: heart, lungs, liver, kidney, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, emotional, mental, physical. That helped me more than anything I can get from the VA, me being able to work on myself. I don't drive well now. I'm the best 40-mile-an-hour driver in the city. But some of the veterans who know I have problems, they got me into the car and they tailgate and they speed and they drive over bridges and stuff, and it puts me in a panic mode. So I always pick who I can drive with, or I just drive the 40-mile-an-hour trip. But I no longer can drive over the Zakin Bridge. I can't drive over those locations. So I'm always working myself daily. I do at least 3 or 4 different things so that I can keep myself in balance. The most important thing is that when the virus started, the healers showed their students how to create resistance and clear the virus. So I was doing that on different people, but I used it on myself first. And I took a nap. And I was dreaming I was back in one of the villages that had typhoid fever. And I was kicking in the bed. And I woke up and I said, damn, I was in Vietnam. That made me understand what the healing pattern they gave us was doing. It was clearing stuff. So I wound up working on a lot of people who had the virus. One of the former police officers is now a prison guard. The prisoners wanted to catch the virus to get compassionate release. And he said, Rick, I'm sick. So I started to work on him. I worked on him. After a couple of weeks, he said, the fever is broke. And I worked on him. He was able to go back to work. He caught the virus twice, but I worked on a lot of different people. And then we were informed that the husband and wife team, the wife who was the medical intuitive, her family came up from Florida, they brought the virus and she died. We were all grief-stricken because we didn't know if the company was going to close down because she made $400 an hour for her medical readings. So the husband's the master healer and inventor. So he had to reinvent stuff. Before, it would be a year and a half in advance to make appointments. Once she passed away, he had to reinvent stuff. So I have an appointment every month for 3 months, then a month off. So I just had my appointment last week. He'll say, okay, Ricky, what are we working on? And I might say my driving or whatever, and he'll tune in and see what I have to do. I wrote down a list of things just the other day that I was working on. Sorry, I can't remember what it is, but I have to work on myself all the time. I'm not disappointed. I'm happy I at least have the tools to do this. But it's really tough. If you can just visualize drinking a soda, and as you start to drive, next thing you realize the ingredients of the soda throws you off where it feels like you're turning the steering wheel left and right. So you feel like you're going off the road. So I always have to be extra careful driving. You can't ask me for a ride anywhere. Unless you're gonna drive around, I drove here easy. You know, I was the best driver in the streets. You know, but it's really, really tough to do this. And I just got a letter from the VA regarding my my own health and what they don't agree with. So it's a continued fight. They have a difficult time getting help from the VA. I think that I probably covered a lot of the time here. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to ask me, but
can you talk a little bit more about this family gift around intuitiveness? Can you just speak about that a little bit more? What you've learned?
It's from the Native American women in my family. They were the intuitives, but no one told me as a kid. But as things continued to progress with me and my age, I didn't know why I knew in advance. Myself and my late sister Janice, we were the only ones in the family that had that gift. And all my sisters died at home. My older sister had a music publishing company, and she sang in Spanish and English and Portuguese. And her and her husband lived in Alameda, California. So when I came back from overseas, I went to see them perform first. But my sister Janice and myself were the intuitives of the family. And when my sister Claire was alive, they lived in Boxford. And she's said to me as Christmas was approaching, "Ricky, I got my daughter a nice gift for Christmas." I said, "I know." She said, "Oh, my husband told you?" I said, "No." "Hey, what is it?" I said, "It's a car." She said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "It's red." I can see it, you know. So, but that's just my blessing. And I go with a person and we're walking down the street and I may grab them and try and steer them to the other side of the street because what I don't like that's coming towards me, whatever. But I can't tell them anything because they wouldn't understand. So I try to cross the street or whatever. But even now, I go to bed at nighttime. The slightest snap will wake me up. So I've been up since 2:30 this morning. I got to do remote viewing on people. And I couldn't go back to sleep, so I sat up, had a cup of coffee, and I was watching Westerns. So.
I like when you talked about how you healed yourself outside of regular medicine. I know I've been healed. I've been healed. What's the word I want to say? I've had traumatic issues in my life, but I've been healed with not regular medicine, psychology, or like psychiatry. It was all through spirituality. And energy and accepting that I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. And so I really like when you spoke about how you healed yourself outside of regular medicine, how the VA wasn't able to help you and you had to go and find your own road. That really hit me. I just wanted to let you know.
I had to, because if you go to the VA, they just now letting the veterans get acupuncture there. I paid for years to go someplace else. And when I went to get it renewed at the VA, they said, "We never paid for you to have acupuncture." I said, "Yes, no, we never paid." They were in denial. So I said, "I'll go someplace else." So 6 months ago, the VA contacted me. "We have an appointment for you at the acupuncturist at the West Roxbury VA." So I've been going there for the last several months getting acupuncture. The toughest thing is they're always in denial. They don't. My record shows I've been affected by Agent Orange, and even though I don't have those severe breakouts, it's in my bloodstream. So dealing with the VA, it's really tough. And I got a letter the other day about I'm trying to get a rating increase. And they said, "Well, you said that you were fine. You said this, you know." So if my doctor says, "How you doing?" and I say, "I'm fine," veteran says he's fine. They know that the chloracne is never going to leave my body. You know, at various times, my skin will break out, but I deal with it with my own herbal baths and different things because I'm not going to go and take pharmaceuticals. I don't even take aspirin. You know, it just works better for me. I can say in a mentally relaxed state. But I work on myself every day. I have stuff laid out on my kitchen floor that are numerical algorithms. I didn't bring any of those with me, but if I set it up here and just pointed at you, you might twitch or move because you can feel the energy. But it's very powerful. It's from the healers who have been teaching me. And I believe in that. I believe in the things that I can do to help other people. So I'm always getting calls from people in Europe who are sick. One lady had parasites on her feet because she's walking in the villages in the village in Africa with no shoes on. So she's been sick with that and sick with other things, but I've been working on her. So I'm happy that I can do this.
You said you have a woman in Africa who is like sought you out to get therapy. How do people find you?
I have a website and I have a card if you like, but I remember one of the Native American elders. He was known as Medicine Story. He always traveled Europe with his healing, and he had a circle of people that he would go to Europe every year, and that's how I met this lady. She saw my website, and I gave her. And actually, before the pandemic, she came to Massachusetts. She was here for a week, and I did work on her every day for a whole week. And I said intuitively, with what we cleared up, your psychotherapy business is going to open, and it did. So that's why she travels different places with to see clients, but she doesn't take care of herself as well as she should. You're in a village that's got no sanitation, and she's walking in bare feet like everybody else, and she gets sick all the time. So, and she always says, "Ricky, I hate to bother you, but can you do this? Can you do this?" I donate the time for her. No, no. And I can give you a card if you like, or anybody, if you like a card, I can give you a card.
Thank you, Rick. That was fascinating. Thank you for joining us online. Can you tell them that?
Oh, we got one question. One question. Why? The question is, why do you carry this feather, the stick with the feathers?
This is called a dance stick. The very tip of the stick, I have an eagle feather. I usually just carry this when we're doing ceremony, some of the Native American events. But because the eagle is a sacred bird, it's not supposed to touch the ground. But we'll dance with it. And my cousins, when they dance with the stick, they do some amazing stuff. They'll dance, and they'll dance like that and all around the arena. So they're the ones that made what I'm wearing. They made it just by looking at me. I bought the skins, which are really thick. And when I first put it on, shoulders were like this, and it wouldn't fit the legs because I have a deceiving build. So they just open the seams, and it's fine. They're 87 and 88 years old now. I didn't put a picture. I did. That's them. Yes, that's my two little cousins. They're known as blue white and hawk. That's their Native American names.
What is your Native American?
Leaping deer. That's what one of the old chiefs who was in World War II. He's 100 years old now. That's what he nicknamed me. Leaping deer, yes. So, my father, because he was 6 feet tall and skinny, his native name was Sticks. That's what they named him. You know, but I would love to have been able to learn from my father. Unfortunately, he succumbed in 1989. Unfortunately, as an older fellow, I can tell you, I missed not having a father at home, especially in the Native culture. The things that the men would teach you, if you're living out, we'll say in the Midwest, where they don't have the accessibility to some of the city things. They hunt and fish. They do this for subsistence, or like up in Canada. So some of the fellows are traveling all the time to try to make a week pay. So I'm fortunate. Most of the Native friends of mine who do come here, they have nothing else to look forward to. So if they come to Massachusetts, well, I'm going to stay at your house just for a day, overnight. Just today, then tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow it's another day, and a lot of them have substance abuse problems. So you're dealing with that as well. And I've had some. I've got some really good friends who make real good Native American things for some of our events. But when the pandemic started, a lot of the events stopped in this area. Some of the people went to the Midwest where they have a lot of open air things. And when they came back, a lot of them died. They brought the virus with them. So it's unfortunate. I was having a woman make me something. She was in Rhode Island. I sent her the money. She was making me something and she was coughing. And she was saying, "Oh, I hope I'm not catching the virus." And she died. You know? But I can also say a lot of the Native people didn't want to get the vaccine because they don't believe in a lot of the things because of things that happened to them years ago. Now, when the virus first started, I didn't rush out and get vaccinated. I went there myself with my stuff to create resistance and clear the virus. I did that for X amount of months until I said, it's time for me to get vaccinated. But my chiropractor, who was as a special man, he didn't want me to get vaccinated. I had to make the determination for myself, you know, and because I get one shot to do it right, you know, and all the Native friends, they were passing away, and even the ones that got the virus, we had to tell them, listen, you're in rough shape, you're not in good health, now you get the virus, and you don't want to get vaccinated, but it's because of their religious beliefs, they didn't want to get vaccinated. You know, so.
You've honored us by your presence.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Zoom folks, we're going to hang up. He's got a very low battery now.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Plug it in.